Okay, good morning, guys. Fine, so let's start today's discussion on Tableau. And yesterday we started our discussion on Tableau, and we have seen some of the have a walkthrough of some of the tools feature, and we have discussed about what are the different section of the tool that we have need to work with, and we have started our discussion with the data connections. Now for today's sessions I'll be continue my discussions, and what I will do, I'll be working on the basic level of visuals, and we'll be seeing some advanced visualization like custom how to build custom visuals in Tableau. And then I'll be talking about some more data connectors, how we can connect to the different types of data connectors in my next class. And then what I can do, every session I'll be taking three data types of data connectors, and I will try to discuss about that, and then we can continue our discussion with the other part of Tableau, like Tableau prep, or working with other features like data management. So there are a lot of data connectors that we need to work with Tableau. So for every session, I'll be try to talk about 3 to 5 data connectors, and then I'll continue my discussion on the other agendas for the day. So this is the way we can just mix all the different components of Tableau, and then we'll move up to the dashboard part, and then the story part, and then publishing the. So this will be a very smooth discussion on Tableau, which I have planned for you guys. With that note, so let's start today's discussion. Yesterday, I start my discussion about at the point where I have discussed about how we can save our work. So today, the first topic that I'm going to talk about is working with aggregations and format. So we have seen a basic level of formatting yesterday. Now today, I'll talk about what is local formatting, what is global formatting, and what is aggregations. And then I will move up to the working with different types of visuals using Tableau. Fine, so let me share my screen with that, and let me see what are the things we can take up for today's discussion. Just a minute. Fine, so your recordings are all updated in your dashboard. So I just had a look over here before I proceed with the class. So let me just share my screen, and we can just start the session. So yesterday we have discussed about the creating a basic chart and how we can sort that particular chart. What are the things available for sorting and swapping the rows and columns, and how we can just save the chart in a different format, like using the PB, TBW or TBWX format. So what I told about. So today we'll work on the aggregations and format. So what are aggregations? The aggregations are nothing but aggregate values on which we work. Now, for example, we were working on a scenario where I was showing you the shipping cost and the profit in terms of product subcategory. I also discussed about the different options that you can go for working with dimensions and measures, like drag and drop, double click, point and click options that you can go for. And among all the three options, we have the point and click options, which is more handy and which is best in for day-to-day work, which even I follow in my day-to-day work with Tableau. Now let me create the tool once more. So we were working on this particular report, my report, which I have already created. So let me open this particular report. So I clicked on this particular thumbnail, which is available over there. And this was the report that we are working, where I was working on formatting the report. Now, the next thing that I'm going to work on this particular same report is how to work on aggregations. Now, let me discuss a scenario on that. The scenario is I wanted to know the average shipping cost for each of the against each of the product subcategory and the profit that we have incurred from this particular sale. I repeat, I wanted to know the average shipping cost. Now, average is an aggregate term, is an aggregation, is a symbol of aggregation basically. Then aggregation is a the definition states that aggregation is a single value which results of using multiple values like sum, average, mean, max. So these are the terms which are used under aggregations. Considering that, we need to find out the average shipping cost. Now we have two pills over here in the under the major value shelf, the profit and the shipping cost. Now both the aggregations in this pill are sum. Now what I want, you can see the profit is also in sum and the shipping cost is also in sum. Now the requirement is the shipping cost should be in terms of average. For that, what you need to do, you have to come to this particular shipping cost and you have to click on this arrow. Over here you can see some is a major option which is by default in sum. What do you have to do? Now we have to select the average from here. The moment I select average, you can see all the shipping cost. The column, this particular column is showing me the average shipping cost against each of the product subcategory. Now, yesterday we have worked on the format part where I added a currency value. I have kept the negative values within the bracket. Now, what if I want to again prepare this report? I next time again I came across a same similar requirement for next week, and I again came to my Tableau application. I fired it up, and I came to a new sheet. I select the product subcategory. I select the profit, and I select the shipping cost from here by holding down my control key. Go to show me, and I clicked on this particular text table. Now you can see the formatting and the aggregations that I have done for this particular table is is not getting applied over here for the same report. Why? Because if you remember my last yesterday's discussion, I told you that all the pills that we use in terms of dimensions and measures to a report are always local to that particular worksheet. So as these pills are local to the lifetime of the pills is only to this particular worksheet. Next time when I use this pills or any kind of formatting and aggregation that we do on this particular dimensions and measures will remain available only for this particular worksheet. This is called local aggregations or formatting. Next time when I use the same report, I'm not getting those formation. I'm not getting that dollar signs or the bracket. So again, doing the same report again and again and working on the aggregations and the formatting is just a time consuming task, right? So instead of doing the local formatting and aggregations, why can't we go for a global formatting and aggregations? When I say global formatting and aggregations, I mean to say that we need to do the formatting and aggregations only once, and next time when we use those dimensions and measures, we don't have to separately perform the formatting or the aggregations. Now the question is how we can apply a global format or aggregation in the measures. For that, let me clean the screen, and you have to come to this measure section. Over here, before I start preparing the report, what I can do, I can come to the profit measure. I can click on this particular arrow. Over here, we can see some options which has been populated over here. Out of these options, we have to go for default properties. Now, in default properties, you can see the options like number format and aggregation. Now, this is the two things that we need to focus as of now. Number format, what we want. Under number format, we want to assign a currency symbol to this, and I want to keep the negative values within the bracket. So I'll go for the number format. I'll go to the currency. I'll update this with a dollar sign. I'll keep the negative values within the bracket, curly round bracket, and I'll click OK. Again, I'll come over here. I click on this arrow, go to default properties, and this time I'll go for the aggregations where I can change the aggregations of the profit figures. But for us, the aggregation needs to change for the shipping cost where I'm looking for the average cost, right? So I'll go back to the shipping cost measure, click on this particular arrow, go to default properties. First, let me change the currency. And then I'll again come to the shipping cost. Click on this and then change the aggregation from sum to average. And now if I prepare the same report over here, which I can see over here, I can just select the product subcategory, the profit, and the shipping cost from here. Go to my show me option, click on text, and you can see the report is already pre-formatted and aggregated. I don't have to perform the aggregations and the format over here in these bills. Now this is the difference between a local format and a global format, or local or global aggregation. Now it's very important to know, again, when you start working, you should always work on the global aggregations and format before you start your reporting. And for doing this, you need to have a proper understanding of the business again. You need to know which are the measures on which we need to perform a global aggregations, because we'll be using those measures on a multiple times. We can refer those measures for reporting for different types of analysis. So this was an example where I wanted to show you how we can apply format and aggregation. The next topic that I'm going to talk about. So we have seen what are measures, we have seen what are shelves, bill, summary tables, sorting, aggregations, format. The next thing that I want to talk about is the visual analytics part. Now over here we'll be working on the different types of charts that are available. But before we start on the visual analytics discussion, we should know what is a visual analytics. In simple English, visual analytics is a process where we use certain graphs or certain visuals to represent the insights or to represent the trends, the patterns, the relationship in our data. So we use certain graphs, bar graphs. There are certain visual segments that we should keep in mind on the different types of analysis that we do on a day-to-day work. Now, when I speak about visual segments, there are more 6 kind of visual segments that we work. Now, what are visual segments? Visual segments are the families of visuals under which there is a collection of different types of visuals, and depending upon the analysis that we do, we can use those visuals available under that respective visual segment. Now you can see over here there are 6 types of visual segments that we mostly work with: the composition, distribution, trend, maps, relation, comparison. Now let us understand each segment in detail. The first is composition. Now let me give you a scenario for this. And then I will talk about the visuals that falls under composition. And I will also show you some hands-on example on those visuals. Now suppose you have a sales data where you have three categories of sales. Now you wanted to know the contribution for each category of sales to the final sales figure. Over here, we are actually trying to find the composition of the different categories of sales. And the best visual for this understanding this composition is a pie chart or maybe a tree map. Now, pie chart is a very commonly used visuals in day-to-day reporting. But you don't know under which, most of the people don't know under which composition this which visual segment this particular chart falls in. So basically pie chart or tree map, this falls under the visual segments of composition, where we find the contribution or for each of the segment where there is multiple attributes who are contributing to a single result. So those composition about how much contribution has come from each of the areas, we use a pie chart or a tree map. Now there are few things that we need to keep in mind while working with a pie chart or a tree map that I will be discussed when I will be working on a pie chart composition. The next is distribution. Now distribution is a kind of analysis that we do regular basis on our data. For example, let me talk about some scenarios. Now if you have a customer data, you want to know what is the distribution of age of the customers over your data. So what segment of age, how many customers are between 10 to 20, uh, 21 to 30, or 31 to 40. So when you find the distribution of certain variables over your data set, we use this kind of charts which comes under the visual segment of distribution. And the most common example for this is histogram. Histogram is a chart which is basically used to find the distribution over your data. Now, for example, let me give you one more example. Now, suppose you have a garden where you're planting apple trees. Now, you wanted to know what is the distribution of the different categories of apple in your garden. Over here, we are dealing with only one fruit, that is apple. But we want to know what is the distribution of the different types of apple within that particular garden. Category 1, category 2, category 3. So in order to find the distribution of your data, we use a visual segment, a common visual like histogram, to find out this kind of insights. Next is trend. Now trend is a very common thing. We find the trend in terms of profit, sales. We even see the trend in the share market, or in a cricket match we know the trend, how at what frequency the wickets are getting fall, how the scorecard is going above or down. And the best example that we can use for trend is a line chart. A line chart is a very common chart where we can work on the trend to find the trend. The next is maps. And now you know easily by the name itself. Map means working with geographical data, working with geographical components, working with state, provinces, postal code. Now in Tableau we'll be working on few maps like field map. Yesterday I have shown you an example how we can use map to plot the populations and the literacy rate. The map is also is a type of visual segment which is used for analyzing the geographical component in your data set. The next is relation. Now, it's a very important thing to find relation in your data. Now, for example, you wanted to know the relation between sales and profit in terms of quantity. So how much quantity we have supplied to get this particular sales figure and to achieve this particular profit. To get the quantity, we need to first establish a relationship between sales and quantity, sales and profit. Sorry. So this kind of finding the relation between the variables in your data, we use the chart which falls under relation. And the best example for this particular chart is a scatter plot. Now there are certain rules, certain universal rule that we need to follow while working with a scatter plot chart. And this will be the first example that I will take today. And the most commonly used visual segment in any reporting is comparison, that is bar graph. Now, a lot of people get confused between bar graph and histogram. Now I hope you know the difference between where to use a bar graph and where to use a histogram. Whenever you want to compare a data, for example, sales among the different products or sales among the different states or sales customer wise or sales region wise, we use a bar graph. But whenever we want to find a distribution in our data, we will use a histogram. Then I will show you all the examples in today's session with some good hands-on practice. So for composition, we can go for pie chart and tree maps. For distribution, you go for histogram. For trend, we can go for line charts. For map, we have symbol chart and field maps. For relation, we can go for charts like scatter plot. And for comparison, we can go for charts like bar graph. Now, these are the basic charts which are available in this particular visual segment. Now, there are a lot of other charts. We can go for slicers. We can create filters. There are also various type of charts like KPI chart. Now, every chart falls under this particular visual. This is the most basic level of visuals. Now, every chart, even God chart, if we talk about KPI chart, cards, everything falls under this particular 6 visuals that we use. Now, we have to find out which chart falls under which visuals. Now, let's start working on some of the visual segments. To start with, I'll take the first visual segment as relation because this is a very important part of understanding when you work with concepts like visual segments. Scatter plot, a very interesting chart, a very important chart in our day-to-day work. It's a very important chart in terms of understanding the relation between two variables in your data. It is also known as XY plots. I basically don't call it a scatter plot. I always use the term XY plot chart in my day-to-day work from the very beginning. Now, in order to work with scatter plot, we need to take care of two things. First, dependent and independent variable. Now, in order to define the scatter plot properly, as we know, scatter plot deals with two axes, x-axis and y-axis. Now I will show you how to build. Before that, let us first understand this example. The first, in the right hand side of your screen, you can see that there is a shopkeeper who actually sells woolen clothes, and he has observed that with the increase in temperature, his sales actually declines, and with the decrease in temperature, the sales increases. Now, over here, there are two kinds of variable. One is dependent and one is independent. Now, it's very important to identify your independent and independent variable before you start working with your XY plot charts or the scatter plot charts. Now, if you can see over here, the temperature and the sales, between these two, we have one as an independent variable and the other is dependent variable. Now, the dependent variable and the independent variable, can you tell what is the independent and dependent? You can just keep the answers to yourself. Over here, the independent variable is a temperature because we don't have a control over the temperature, and the dependent variable is sales, because the sales is always dependent on the temperature. Now there can be a lot of examples in a real world where you can find the dependent and independent variable. For example, income and expenses. Your expenses are dependent on your income. So income is a independent variable and expense is a dependent variable. There can be much more serious examples in our life. For example, the cost of medicine increases as your age increases. Now, if I try to find out the dependent and the independent variable in this example, the independent variable is our age, and the dependent variable is the cost of the medicine. So, as we grow older, we consume more and more medicines. Of course, it's not a good thing to have medicines. We should always have a healthy diet, and we have to keep a routine where we need to at least spend 1 hour every day for physical activities. So, keeping in this mind, we should always keep the dependent variable in the y-axis and the independent variable in the x-axis. Now let's work on a small example. Let me go back to my Tableau desktop and let me connect to our data. Now what I can do, I can take a new worksheet and I can go to this particular, I can click on this particular Tableau icon, and for this I can go to the text file and I will take this car maker data. I click on this particular data set. Now let me give you a scenario before I start working on this particular data set. Now this data set is an automobile data set which consists of different types of fuel types, uh, different types of different what you can say automobile information in terms of body style, drive wheels, engine location, wheelbase. So you can say these are typical automobile data where we are able to see the different parts, information of the different parts of the data of a particular car maker. We have a body style like convertible, hatchback, sedan. We have a drive wheels like rear four-wheel drive, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive. RWD stands for rear wheel drive, four-wheel drive. Engine location, the engine may be in the front, it may be in the back, in the rear. You can see some engines are at the rear. So this particular data is all about the car data, which consists of different information about the different parts of the car. Now let me give you a scenario before I start working on this particular data. What I want to purchase a car, and I'm looking for a car which is more than 150 horsepower and the price will be less than 30,000, maybe in terms of dollars. Now I repeat, the scenario is I'm looking for a car which is more than 150 horsepower and it will be some around near below $30,000. Now I have no idea about which car I should proceed for, whether it should be a petrol car, whether it should be a diesel car, whether the engine will be at the front, whether it will be a four-wheel drive. I have no idea. I have got this particular data and now I wanted to analyze this particular data to find my answer. So what I can do, without wasting much time, I have connected this particular data and I will go to my worksheet. Now you can see the car data. Now as I said yesterday, you should always keep an eye on the measures and dimensions before you start working on your reports. Over here, just keep an eye Just have a glance whether all the measures and all the dimensions are being properly aligned or not. And what are dimensions? They basically are the reference column and the measures of the column which are basically used for calculations. Now what I can do, I can select the car ID from here. Now I'm working to find a solution where I want to purchase a car, right? The criteria is more than 130 horsepower and the price should be less than $30,000. So this is the car ID which is unique in number, which is available in the dimension. I will select this. I will hold on my control key. I'll come over here in the major section, and over here I can see the horsepower option and the price. So I'll select all these three. So I'm using the point and click method. I'll go to show me, and over here you can see out of the highlighted chart we have a chart that is scatter plot, which is actually Tableau is selecting for us. What I can do, I can click on this particular scatter plot chart, and here we go. Now all the car IDs which are actually unique has been listed over here, and the price is over here, and the horsepower is has been listed. Now as per the rules of making a scatter plot chart, we should first consider the dependent and independent variable, and then we should go for the dependent variable, placing it in the y-axis. Now can you tell me over here what is the dependent and what is the independent variable? Now over here the independent variable is the horsepower and the dependent variable is price, because as the price horsepower increases, the price is also increases. But over here we can see the dependent variable is in the x-axis. Nothing to worry, right? Because we have an option to swap the rows and columns, the axis basically, with the help of this icon. So what we can do, we can quickly click on this particular icon and bring the price into the y-axis and horsepower into the x-axis. Now this particular scatter plot chart looks good to us. Now what I can do, let me rename this particular chart as a XY plot. Now that we have able to plot the price and horsepower, the next thing that I want to know is to work on my requirement. My requirement is anything above 150, the horsepower should be, and it should be less than $30,000. Now I have the 30,000 mark in the price column and the 150 horsepower in the horsepower, that is the x-axis. Now what I can do, let me expand this particular chart to have a better view. So I'll go over here and I'll click on entire view, and I will have a proper understanding about the different horsepowers and the price. Now to mark my requirement, what I can do, I can take the help of a reference line. So what I can do, I can draw a reference line at the x-axis and the same reference line in the y-axis. So for that, I'll come to the x-axis, do a right click over here, and there I'm getting an option as add reference line. I click on this add reference line, and there will be a pop-up menu coming up where we can see options like lines, band, distributions. And in the next, we can see a section called scope where we can see options like entire table, per pan, and per cell. We'll keep it as per pen option. We'll seek the per pen option over here. And just below that, there is a line option, right? Over here under the value section, we can see some aggregate values like sum and average. What you can do, You can click on this particular drop down and select a constant option from here. The moment I select the constant option, you can see the value showing here is by default 48, which we can change to 150 because our requirement is 150, right? Now if I come down over here in the formatting section, we have an option to choose the different types of lines along with the color. So let me select a line which should be orange in color, and let me select a dotted line. And if I click OK, and now you can see that I have got a reference line in the x-axis on the 150 horsepower mark. The same thing I can do for the price where my requirement is less than 30,000, right? So I'll do a right click, click on add reference line, go to perpend, select constant from here, and let me give it over here 30,000. Select a solid line which should be black in color. So now I have got a clear picture about my requirement where I can see these cars in this particular segment. The cars which are available over here are actually comes under my requirement, which is less than 30,000 and more than 150 horsepower. Now to make my decision more and more perfect, my next requirement was what kind of car I should go for, whether it's the diesel or whether it's a petrol car. So I have a dimension over here where I can see there's a fuel type. Now if I come to my data source, so I can see the column over here called fuel type, which actually shows the gas and the diesel options. So what I can do, I can bring this fuel type over the color card. And you can see the car which are in orange are all a petrol car, and the car which colors are in blue are all diesel car. Just a minute, guys. Now you can see in this particular segment, as per requirement, I have only got petrol cars. Now to make things more accurate, what I can do, I can bring the fuel type over the shape card. Now I can see that for all the petrol car has been converted to a square, keeping the diesel car in blue, that is in circle. We can also change the shape of this particular data as per our convenience. We can click on the shape card and you can see the diesels are marked as circle and the gas, that is a petrol car, has been marked as square. We can select it from here and we can go for other options like star. You can select the diesel, I can select the star, I can select the gas, and I can go for diamond and I can apply. I can also change the size of this particular car IDs in terms of diesel and petrol. I can use the size card. I click on the size card, I can increase the size. Now you can see that with the help of X-plot charts, XY plot chart, how I was able to make a correct decision in terms of purchasing the car as per my requirement, which was anything above 150 and less than $30,000. And now this particular analysis has also given me more options in terms of the fuel type that I can go for. So I can now have a clear idea that I should go for petrol car, and these are the cars, and I can see the price over here that I can select. Now if I select this particular car, I can see the price. If I select this particular car, I can see the price, the horsepower, the fuel type, and the car ID. Now this is the way we can use a scatter plot to make our decisions. Now this particular is a perfect example that I can set for where you can establish a relationship between the dependent and the independent variables, keeping the dependent variables in the appropriate axis, and you can just proceed forward by using the other options like reference lines and all. The next example that I'm going to talk about is histogram. Now histogram, as I said, so let me take a new worksheet, right click and change the name as histogram. Now in histogram, as I said, it is the best falls under the visual segment of distributions. Now over here, from this particular data set, I want to know the distribution of length of the cars over this particular data. I have a length measure over here. Now I wanted to know how the length of the cars are distributed. How many cars are between 140 to 160 centimeters or meters or feet or inches, any kind of values that are updated in the data set. Now I wanted to know the number of cars between different segment of length from this particular data set. Now few things that you need to keep in mind. In Tableau, when you're working with a histogram concept, there is a default bin is created under the dimension. Now that bin actually holds that particular segment of measurement from where you can edit the segment, whether you want it between 140, the intervals basically 140 to 150 or 141 to 150, this kind of intervals you manage. So just keep an eye on the dimension section. The moment I use this length and I convert it to a histogram, you will be see there is a bin dimension automatically created over here. So keep an eye on this particular dimension section to have a better idea. Now what I can do, I can select the length, go to show me, and you can see out of the available 24 visuals, Tableau is only highlighting bar chart and histogram. Now out of these two charts, it's telling us to use the bar chart, but what we can do, we can go for the histogram. So I can just select this histogram chart, and here we go. Now you can see the moment this length, we find the distribution of the length over the data set, there is a length bin that has been created under the dimension section. Now what is this bin? This bin is nothing but the intervals. You can see 145, 140 to 145, 145 to 50. This particular interval is taken care by this particular bin dimension. Now we have an option to edit this particular bin. I can click on this particular arrow and there's an edit option over here. I can click on edit And you can see the size of the bin has been defined over here, which is by default is 4.66. What I can do, if I make it 10 and I click OK, now you can see that it has become 140 to 150 basically. And these are the cards which falls under this particular bin. Now if I wanted to know the number of cards which falls under this length, what I can do, I can click on this particular T icon, this label icon, and I can see there are 3 cards which falls under 140 to 150. There are 30 cards, 37, 69. Now the next information that I can fetch from this particular histogram is how many cars from each of the length are belong to petrol or diesel. So what I can do, I can bring the fuel type over the color mark, and now I can see that each of the section there are 3 diesel car and 34 petrol car. For this length bin from 170 to 180, we have 63 petrol car and 6 diesel car. We can also change the color, where I can select the color as per my convenience, and I can update this particular chart. Now you can see there's an interesting thing that I want to highlight over here. For the segment between 200 to 210, we cannot see the numbers, right? If you hover our mouse, we can see the count for the petrol car is 2 and the diesel car is 1, but the numbers are not visible because they are overlapping. Now to highlight the overlapping numbers, because this particular segment of length has a very less area to display the numbers, right? And that is obvious. You can see by the size of this particular bar of the histogram. What you can do to highlight the overlapping numbers, you can click on the label card, this label card which is used for labeling this particular chart. In this card option, if you come down, there is an option written over here, allow labels to overlap other marks. You have to check mark this particular option, and the moment I do that, you can see 1 and 2 are visible now. Now the difference between histogram and bar graph, basically there can be many difference, but yes, the best definition that you can state is that it is help for finding the distribution and bar graph is for comparison. Now there can be many reasons, but they are not so accurate. Like in terms of in bar graph, we have gaps between the bar. In histogram there is no gaps, but these are not so accurate definitions. So this kind of answers I get in the interview. So don't give this kind of answers in the interview. Give something that is more accurate in terms of what it does, the visual what function that particular visual performs. So best talk in terms of visual segment. Give some good examples that I have given in terms of bar graph and histogram. So that is where you will stand outside, because when I take interview, this is a common question that I ask a guy with minimum 1 year of experience, the difference between bar graph, and it's a very important question also. So this kind of answers I expect. There is no gap between the bars. Histogram is more compact than bar graph. These are very standard answers which actually makes me laugh sometimes. So always talk whenever there is a question in the interview in terms of bar graph and histogram, talk in terms of visual segment and give some good examples, real world example, explore some examples of histogram, some use cases on histogram, and talk about that in the interview. And I'm sure the person who will take your interview will be having a better idea about your knowledge. With that, let's move to the next segment of discussion, that is bar graph. Now you know what is a bar graph, right? So what I can do, I can quickly select a worksheet rename it as a bar graph. And what I want to compare the different body style in terms of the number of body style that I have. Now, what is a body style? Body style is a dimension over here, right? We can see in the dimension section. So if I come to the data source, in the body style, we can see the type of body. Guys, just allow me 2 minutes, I'm coming. Okay. So body style we can see over here as convertible, hatchback, and these are very common car style that we actually use in India also. Now, I wanted to know the number of productions that has been done in terms of the body style. So, I'll go back to my work area. I'll select the body style. And now, for the first time, I'm going to use a measure which is not a part of my data source. If you remember my yesterday's discussion, I told that by default Tableau calculates some other measures and dimensions like longitude, latitude. Over here, you can see the major names from the dimension and the number of records and the major values in the major section, which are not a part of our data set, but it has been created by Tableau. So for the first time, I'm going to use a measure which is created by Tableau as a number of records. What I can do, I can select the body style, hold on my control key, come to the number of records, go to show me, and I can select the bar graph. Now what I can do, I can use this icon over here, the swap icon, and I can expand this particular chart from the entire view. Now I have got all the body style listed over here. I can quickly click on this particular T icon to label them. And I can see that I have 6 cars in the convertible section. Hardtop I have 8, but highest production is in the segment of hatchback and sedan. And this is the most common type of car we can see in India, right? Hatchback and sedan. And wagon also sometimes. To make this particular report more interactive, what I can do, I can bring the body style over the color mark. And I can have a proper interactive report in terms of the different types of productions. I can also use one more option like the fuel type. Now I can see for each of the body style, these are the number of cars which are in petrol or in diesel. Now there is a very advanced option that we can perform in this particular bar graph, which I will be discussing in the upcoming discussion today if time permits me. How we can use some advanced option on a bar graph where I will be describing a scenario. But for now, this is how we can work with a bar graph, and this is the difference between a histogram and a bar graph. Okay, I'm getting some question from Shubham. How we decide the outliers? Outliers, I'll discuss, Shubham. Outliers have a different discussion for us. We'll discuss it on the data management part. See, for basic understanding, we need to have a business understanding in a better way to define the outliers, because it all depends upon the business. It can be the highest sales or the highest profit. We can easily find out the outliers within by using a XY plot chart kind of option. And in terms of the colors, it's same, because I have already done the formatting earlier in terms of fuel type, where I have used the fuel type on the color card. That's why it's taking the same color for each of the chart, because I'm using the same dimensions and measures, right? So the formatting which is actually done on the color mark in terms of that particular dimension is getting repeated. Now this is the difference between a bar graph and a histogram. Yes, you have to change it again and again, no issues. We don't have any other options. You have to go for some things are a part of this particular tool, so we do not have a choice on that. Yes, Saurav, you can say that can be also good answer. Bar graph from discrete. I will be discussing about discrete variable and his continuous variable in the line chart section. It's very important to know discrete variable and continuous variable. You can say histogram is for continuous and bar graph is for discrete, but not in all that sense. There are scenarios where you will be using a bar graph for discrete variable also, for continuous variable also. There are certain scenarios that we work. Fine. So with that, next move to the next is the pie chart, the most easiest of all visuals. And a word of caution, try to avoid using pie chart in your visuals, because I don't know, but I don't consider pie chart as a very important way of analysis. But yes, in some cases it is, depending upon again upon the business scenario. But it's the most common type uh, of visuals that we can use. But over here, we'll be using a pie chart for a different purpose. When I will be discussing some advanced visualization concept like dual axis and all. Over here, I will show you how we can use a pie chart for creating a different type of chart out of it. Now, going back to the example, let me take a shade, and I want you to know the number of cards. Till now, we have seen the fuel type in terms of length, in terms of body style, but we actually don't know how many cars are there in this particular segment on a whole, which belongs to the petrol segment, and how many cars are there in the diesel segment. So let's use a pie chart for finding this. Now again, same way we can go, we can select the fuel type from here, and I can just hold on my control key, go to the number of records, go to show me, and this time I can select a pie chart for this, and let me name it as pie chart. Now this particular pie chart, we can select the entire view option from here, and I can make it large, and I can click on this particular label icon, and now I know that I have 175 cars which belongs to the petrol section, and I have 20 cars which are of diesel fuel type. I can add more values to this particular option. I can bring the fuel type over the label mark, and I can see that over here instead of numbers I can see the gas and the diesel part. If I bring the fuel type, the details, no, it's not actually working. If I click on this particular label card and I click on the text, I can actually change it, edit this particular option. I can make it bold, I can increase the size, from here and I can apply, and you can see that we can play around this particular visual over here. I can also bring the number of records over the level mark, and I can see that for diesel we have 20 and for gas we have 175 cars. Now the problem is that when should we use a pie chart? This is a very common question that even I have been asked by a lot of business owners. When we should use a pie chart? When is a pie chart is more appropriate to show? Now we all know it falls under the composition visual segment, but do we have anything where we can define the number of composition or contribution? We cannot use a pie chart, for example, for, let's say, if I clean this particular screen, if I use this particular manufacturer option and number of records, and I go to show me, and if I use a pie chart, do you think this pie chart gives me an accurate information? Because there are too many attributes which is being displayed over here. Correct. Now this is, I will not consider this pie chart as a good pie chart, because it's showing me too many attributes, and that pie chart has actually become a cluttered pie chart basically. So the question is when to use a pie chart. If you ask me, I always prefer to use a pie chart basically when I'm using a attribute which is less than or maximum having 5 attributes, where I'm working with 5 kinds of attributes, or where I'm using to find the composition of 5 types of categories. Now the question is then, what visual segment we should go when I'm trying to show a category or composition which is more than 5, the case you can see in front of you, right? So how can I show the composition? If there is a requirement that I need to know the number of production in terms of the manufacturer, then what kind of composition I should use? What kind of visual I should use to show this kind of composition? For this kind of composition, I'll be using a visual called tree map. Now this is also a very interesting composition chart which falls under the visual segment of composition, tree maps. Now you can see this is also shows me the composition in terms of the various types of production that we have done. Now each size of the square actually defines the number of cars that has been produced. The bigger the square, the higher the production. The smaller the size of the square, the smaller the production. I could have used a pie chart for this, but just see, this is not giving me a correct answer. This looks so blunt, so cluttered. But the moment I use a pie tree map, it gives me a clear picture about the number of production of each car. So you can see, now the question is, what can we do with the tree chart? What are the limitations of a tree map? The first thing that we can do in a tree map is we can create groups in tree map. Now for example, if I bring the fuel type over the color card, you can see in this tree map a section has been created, there's a gap, there's a little gap over here where we can find those manufacturers which produce diesel car. And we can see Toyota in both the groups, right? Toyota is over here also, and Toyota is over here also. So we can easily create groups among the tree map, and I'm sure compared to the pie chart, this particular chart is giving us a more clear idea about how we should go when you're working with multiple attributes, anything which is more than 5. But tree map has a limitation, a very serious limitation that actually we cannot work with. We cannot change the size of the tree map. If I use the size card, if I click on this particular size card, you can see this not working. So there is a default size that we need to work with the tree map, which you cannot change actually. Now tree map has one more important feature that we can use for. Let me show you something in my Google Chrome. Now this is a typical example of a word cloud. The word cloud is a very important thing in the field of sentimental analysis, where each color of the word, each size of the word actually depicts the different sentiments of the user. Now let me give you a scenario. The scenario is, suppose there's a product has been launched by Samsung. Suppose a camera. And Samsung has launched that particular camera using their Facebook page. You can see the image of the camera and people have started commenting on that. Some has comment about the color, the size, the lens quality, the quality of the picture, the price of the camera. Now what has Samsung done? Samsung has asked the data analyst to do a sentimental analysis and wanted to know what is the sentiment of the people, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, and whether it's neutral for this particular product. So people have started commenting on that particular camera. And after analysis, they have been found they have used different colors for different words. Like for lens, for positive comment, they have used green. For negative comment, they have used red. For neutral, they have used yellow. If lens has been spoken a lot of time, then they have increased the size of the word lens. So this kind of analysis, which is done in terms of sentiment, can be bestly represented through a word cloud. Now, how can we create a word cloud using Tableau Desktop? Because we don't have a word cloud visual over here. Now, this is the first time that I'm going to give an example of a custom visual that we can make out of an existing visual in Tableau. What I can do, I can take a new sheet and I can rename it as word cloud. Just a minute, guys. What I can do, I want to create a word cloud on this particular analysis that I have done, and I want to see about the production of a different manufacturer. So what I've taken the manufacturer, hold on my control key, click on number of records. I've created a tree map, and now I can convert this tree map into a word cloud. And for that, what you need to do, you have to come over the mark section, mark shelf, click on this automatic option and select a text. And you can see this tree map has been converted to a word cloud, which is somewhat similar like this one, where each color and each size of the word actually depicts the number of production. For example, over here, Toyota has the highest production. You can see Toyota, it's bigger, it's more darker than any other manufacturer name in this particular word cloud. Coming to the next, Nissan is the second highest producer of car. You can see Nissan is a bit less dark, the color and the size of the word, compared to Mercury, which has less production, and it's the color and the size of the text is clear enough to say that. Now this is how we can work with the concepts of a custom charts in Tableau. However, I will be trying to work on some more charts in my upcoming discussions. But this is how we can convert. So we can use some of the options even which are available over here in the automatic section, and we can convert some charts into a different chart to take out some more informations to make our information more and more accurate. Now that we have started talking about some custom things, let's talk about some more advanced options. Talking about the custom chart, we can create one more chart that is not available in our show me section, that is a donut chart. We have a pie chart over here, right? But we cannot see a donut chart. If I come over here, a donut chart. Now people who have attended Power BI, they can know that Power BI visuals have by default a donut visual available in the visualization pane. But unfortunately in Tableau, we don't have a donut chart in the visualization pane, but we have a pie chart. So let's modify this particular pie chart into a donut chart. And let's see how we can extract a donut chart from an existing pie chart. So we have a pie chart already made. What you can do, you can duplicate this particular worksheet. You can right click on the worksheet and there's an option called duplicate. And I can rename this particular worksheet as donut chart. Now I have already made a pie chart. Let's convert it to a donut chart. What I can do, I can remove these labels from here for now. I can just keep the pie chart over here. And I can just bring the number of records from here. Now I have a plain pie chart. By now you know how to create a pie chart. What you can do, we can bring the number of records over here into the row shelf. Now this is the step. Now before I start working on the donut chart, there are a lot of approaches that we can do, you can follow to create a donut chart. I want you guys to explore those approaches, and you can create your own donut chart and you can share it so that the people in the other people also can know the different approaches. But this, the approach that I am showing you, is the most simple approach that we can follow to create a donut chart. There are other approaches where you can work with that various calculated fields and formulas, and you can use those options to create a donut chart. Much more complicated, but this is the simplest of approach which I felt that we can easily remember. So what I have done, let me remove this particular pill over here. So we have first created a donut chart. Then what you can do, I can bring the number of record measure into the row shelf, and then I'll use an aggregation on this particular number of records pill to combine these two charts. Now what you can see, the diesel and the petrol section has been bifurcated from the existing pie chart. To combine this, I'll use an aggregate function that is available over here. So I'll click on this, go to measures, and I can select a minimum aggregation this time. Now I have again combined these two charts. Now that I have combined it back using an aggregate function, what I can do, I can select this pill, hold down my control key, and I'll create a copy of this pill just beside it. I'll drag it holding my control key and I'll release my mouse. Now I can see that I have created two pie charts over here. The moment I create two pie charts, if you keep an eye on the marks section, you can see there are two mark section has been created for each of the pie chart. One is at the bottom, one is at the top, and all is for both the charts. So what I can do, I can select the bottom option from the mark section and let me remove all the options from here. And I can make this particular pie chart a blank pie chart. And now I'll be using some advanced visualization technique. And that technique name is called dual axis. Dual axis is a step which is used for combining two charts. Dual axis is a step which is used for combining two axes into a single axis. You can see there are two axes over here, right? Now dual axis option is always available in the second pill. If you come over here, click on this, you can find there's a dual axis option available over here. Dual axis will never available in the first pill. You can see there is no dual axis option over here. So what I can do, I can click on the second pill, come down and select the dual axis. Now the moment I select the dual axis, these two pill you can see now have merged into a single pill. And this pie chart is also merged into a single pill, single pie chart. And now it's time to take out the donut chart from this particular pie chart. For that, what I can do, I can come to this particular first chart mark section, come to the size and increase the size. And again I can come to the second chart, come to the size and increase the size. And from the color mark, change the color to white. And I can bring the number of records to the label part, and I can see the total number of cards in between and the bifurcated values in the axis of in the orbit of the donut. And now I can play around with the size as per my convenience, and I can just make this particular pie chart a bigger or smaller as per my way. So this is how we can use the custom visual. We can work on some custom visuals from an existing visual. Unlike in Power BI, we don't have a marketplace or much collections about custom visual, but yes, this is where your expertise will come into picture. Using the existing chart to extract some custom visuals from that particular chart. One more example of custom visual that we can see. Now, if you watch in the show me section, there is no combo chart. Means there is no line chart or line plus bar graph, which are easily available in the Power BI. Now the question is how we can create a combo chart, or how we can use some advanced visualization techniques on some existing chart. For that, I will again go back to my previous example of bar graph. And let me create a duplicate sheet of this particular visual, and let me name this particular worksheet as, you can say, combo chart also. Yeah, combo chart sounds good to me. Now the requirement is, by now we can see the total number of car has been bifurcated in terms of gas and diesel. But the moment I remove the fuel type, I can see the values, the total values at the top. But the moment I bring the fuel type in, this total value is getting removed. Now the question is how I want a chart where I can see the total values at the top along with the bifurcated values in terms of car, in terms of petrol and diesel. Over here, what I can do, what I can see, the moment I include the fuel type, the total value is getting removed, which I don't want actually. So what I can do, I can come over here, this particular bar chart, and I want to put the total at the top. Now I'm talking about some advanced level of visualization that we can do on the existing chart. My idea was to first give you an idea of how we can build chart and how we can apply some of the custom options which is available in Tableau. Talking about that, I want to keep this particular total at the top. Now again, I will be using the concept of dual access. What I can do, I can bring the number of records at the top just beside the row shelf, and I've created two bar graph, you can see, right? Now what I can do, the moment I create a two bar graph, again in the mark section, I have two different segments of cards for each of the bar graph. Now what I can do, I can remove this fuel type from the second chart, and let me convert this into a line chart. Now I converted the second bar graph into a line chart, and let me do a bit of edit in terms of alignment, where I'll be using the automatic alignment and I'll keep it on the top. Now what I have done, I have actually aligned these numbers, these total numbers at the very top, because when I will combine these two chart, these numbers will automatically placed at the bottom of each bar graph. How? Let's see that. Now excuse me guys. So what I can do, I can go again for the dual access option. I click on it and I'll select the dual access over here. And what have Tableau done? Tableau has used its own intelligence and has provided this particular chart as a result of combining the two axes. Now this particular chart makes no sense. So what do you have to do? We have to again use the available options to convert one of the chart as a bar graph. For that, I have to go to the card mark which was there for the top chart for the first bar graph, and from this automatic section I have to select the bar graph option, and now I'm able to see the totals of each of the bar graph at the top. Now, this particular example can be an example of a combo chart where you can use a line chart and a bar graph first. Second, if I don't want to see the line chart, I just want to see the totals, which was my primary requirement. What I can do, I can come over here to the second chart, and from the color section, I can use this opacity option available over here. If I reduce the opacity to 0, you can see the line has gone. I can also use the overlap option from here, and I can see all the totals has been correctly placed in between with all the available bifurcation in terms of petrol and diesel, which was not possible in case of the earlier case. So this was the thing that we can just create out of this. The next example that I'm going to talk about is a line chart. The next segment, that means the segment that belongs to finding trends. So we have seen how comparison we can do, how the composition we can work with, and how we can work to the different aspect of composition like tree map, pie chart. We have also seen the distribution, relation, and now let's work on the trend. Now for trend, we will be working on a different data. That is, we'll go to this particular drive and let's select a data like birth ratio. Now this particular data set is a data which consists of the number of female and male birth that has taken place during a particular period. Now what I can do, I can select this particular shade and let's start working on a line chart. So I'll select the birth ratio, and before I start working, let's have a glance on the dimensions and the measures, which I always do to see whether all the attributes has been aligned properly under the correct headings. Now the first thing that I want to talk in terms of line chart is it is used for finding the trend in your data. Now I wanted to find the trend in terms of birth, of the female birth and the male birth. Now there are a lot of new things that we will learning on this particular. We'll see the first concept of hierarchy in Tableau, the default hierarchy. So we know in Power BI that date has a default hierarchy, right? It starts from year, month, then weeks and days. The same hierarchy is followed in Tableau also. For example, if I select the month option from here, and if I hold on my control key and I select the female birth, go to show me, you can see the line charts are highlighted. Now there are two kinds of line chart. One is discrete and one is continuous. Now before I speak about the line chart, let us first understand what is a discrete variable and what is a continuous variable. Now, if I start talking about discrete variable and in continuous variable in mathematical language, it will become very complicated for few people, for some of the people in the group. What I can do, let's speak in a very simple way so that you will never forget the concept of discrete and continuous with some real world examples. Now, if we talk about discrete variables, are those variables which have a definite state of value. Now, this is a mathematical definition that I'm saying. Discrete variables are those variables which have a definite state of value. Now, if I talk about simple examples from the real world, if somebody asks you what is the example of a discrete variable, you can say that number of person passing through a door always will have a discrete value. That means have a definite value. At a time, there can be 4 people or 5 people or 10 people can pass through a doorway. Over here, the value is discrete. We cannot say that 4.5% has passed through this doorway. So discrete values are definite values. But continuous values, variables are those variables which actually change their value. For example, temperature. For example, human age. A ball rolling from a certain height to a different height. So it will attain different state of value at every stage. A temperature may be 45.4, an age may be 16.5, 23.2. So this is what you can term in terms of discrete and continuous value. Now, if you can do a Google on discrete value and continuous value, we get a lot of definitions discussed over the internet. But as I am not a maths person, I'm not a person who loves to work with numbers in terms of mathematics, but in terms of data analysis, yes, I love to work with numbers. But this is the best way that I have understood this particular discrete and continuous concept. If you have something better, you can surely share it in the group. People like Lahari, Urvin, Devansh, Saurav, Sandeep, you can just get into the action and you can get something good so that other people can also get enlightened with your knowledge. Now, talking about coming back to the example, this line chart, I wanted to know the birth rate trend in terms of month. So I have selected the month, I selected the birth, and let me select the discrete line chart. Now you can see the moment I have converted this particular month and birth rate into a discrete line chart, as I said earlier, so let me rename this particular worksheet first. As I said earlier, that we'll see the concept of hierarchy over here. Now you can see in the date, in the column shelf, the date dimension is having a plus sign. So this plus sign is the hierarchy that has been created by default in a date, from year to quarter, quarter to month, month to day. Now I can click on this minus sign of the year and I can bring back again. Now this is the first time that you will see how hierarchy is handled in Tableau. In Power BI, we were able to see the hierarchy and we can just check and uncheck the option from there, right? But over here, we have to use these icons, the plus and minus icon, to increase and to decrease the hierarchies, to actually handle the members of the hierarchy. So if I click on this plus sign, this particular trend in terms of birth rate has been bifurcated in terms of quarter. Further, I can drill down to the data in terms of month. Further, I can drill down in terms of day. Now the question is, I have shown you the hierarchy. Now if I click on this particular year mark, I can see there are two sections of granularity. This is called granularity. Now this granularity, the first section deals with the discrete and the second one deals with the continuous. Now for the understanding of this, if I select quarter from the first, this particular quarter shows me the quarter for all the years, quarter one from for all the years from in this particular date column. So quarter one for starting from 1946 to 1960, whatever year is there, the year range is there, it shows the numbers in terms of quarter one from all the years. But if I select the quarter from the second granularity, it will show me the quarter year wise starting from 1946 till 1960. For each year, quarter one, quarter two, quarter three has been defined over here. Now there is not much space over here, that's why you cannot see it clearly over here. So this to granularity actually shows the difference in terms of a specific year and all the year in the total. So what I can do, I can select the month from the second granularity, and I'll try to have a proper understanding about the female birth rate trend on month basis. So if I hover my mouse, I can see starting from January 1946 till December 1959. For each month, I can view the data. So there were 18 births that took place in the year of January 1946, and the trend actually ended going upward over here. If you can see my mouse, so there was an upward trend in terms of female birth, which is a positive sign for the economy. Now, what if I bring the male birth rate? So I'll drag this particular measure, I'll bring it to the row shelf, and I'll release my mouse. Now I can see there are two axes that has been created, female birth rate and male birth rate. Now in both the trend, if you can see at the end, the trend was upward. For female also it's upward, for male also it's upward trend by the end of the survey or by the end of the analysis. Now what I can do to make things more accurate, I can change the color of the male birth trend, and I will again use the dual axis concept to combine these two charts. So what I can do, I can click on this and I can click dual axis, and now you can see both the charts are into a single axis, but there's a mistake over here. The mistake is that if you see the axis of the female birth, which is not synchronized with the male birth. For example, if we take the 45 value from female birth axis, it is not matching with the male birth axis, which is actually showing a 30. Now this will not give a correct answer, right? So the axis should be same for both the birth. Then only we can get a correct information about the trend about both the male and female birth rate for that particular period. So in order to synchronize the axis, what you can do, you can right click on this particular axis and you can select the synchronize axis option from here. And now the moment I synchronize both the axes, you can see the trend line has also changed. The male birth rate has started falling down compared to the female birth rate, which is showing an upward trend. Now that we have combined both the axes, why can't we remove one of the axes and we can refer only one axis, right? So I can do a right click over here and I can uncheck this show header option. And now that I have unchecked remove one of the axes, I can right click over here in the female axis and I can rename this. I can edit this axis. Instead of female birth, I can just simply keep birth over here. So what I did, I right click on this axis, select edit axis, and I've changed the name from the title. I've closed this axis, and now this axis works same for both male and female. And now we can see the actual picture of the trend where female birth rate has shown an improvement by the end of the survey, whereas a male birth rate has become remains showing a sign of constant trend during this particular period. Now what if I want to know the running total, that is the cumulative total basically in terms of this line chart. Now if you keep an eye, I want to know the total value, total number of female birth and the total number of male birth. So just keep an eye that over the trend line of the female birth, which shows an upward trend. Now if I go to this particular birth and this pill, and if I select a running total from the quick table calculation for the male birth, and again if I go to the female birth and if I select the running total for the female, now you will have a completely different picture. You will see that compared to male birth, which is 4214, female birth is less, 4071. Now in terms of the cumulative total, I am getting a completely different picture in terms of male and female birth, which was quite different in terms of the monthly birth number trend that I was analyzing. Now the fall in terms of the female birth rate can be due to many reasons. This can be due to the natural calamities, or it can be due to the economic conditions. There can be a lot of things, a lot of reasons there can be there in the difference between the male birth rate and the female birth rate. But you can see the cumulative total is giving, actually changing the whole scenario, which we were actually analyzing from past few minutes for this particular data set. So my idea behind this example was to show you that how different options, different types of calculations actually change the scenario, actually affects the insights of your data to a big extent. And over here you can see that there is a downward trend in terms of the female birth, but the trend in terms of male birth was a constant for this particular period. Now this is what I wanted to discuss for today's session. So we have discussed about a lot of things about working with some visuals and working with some advanced options and working with some custom visuals, how we can convert some existing visuals into custom visuals. In the next section, I'll be working with some data management part, where I'll be coming up with some new topics in terms of data management in Tableau. We'll be working extensively not with the visual part but on the data source part, the data part, basically how we can use that particular attributes of the data sets to get some more info, how we can manage the data, and then I will talk about how we can clean the data, how we can perform some basic ETL operations in Tableau. With that note, so let me take a few questions and see what you can have for today's session. Yeah, Jay, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
After a long time, I'm listening to you. You're not there on the most of the sessions.
No. I always there most of the session, but just because of my busy schedule, I was unable to attend the doubt class.
Okay, tell me what doubt you have. You're already an expert, I know, but what doubt do you have?
Yeah, basically, I just want to know that is there any possibility to change to customize the quarter, like first quarter start with November, December, and Jan?
Yeah, you can do that in the data management part. I will talk about that.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Kavya. Kavya, Shivam, any one of you can unmute yourself and you can talk.
Yes, can I say?
Yeah, yeah.
Shivam. In the tree map, how can we change the orientation? I didn't understand that.
Which orientation, Shivam?
Suppose at Toyota, I want to change it. It's like size if I want to alter it. Can we do that?
No, 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 no. I told you, right? That's the constant. You cannot change the size of the tree map.
Okay, okay. And one more question. Can you explain a little bit difference between histogram and bar graph?
Okay, I knew that this question would come again. See, as I told you, right, these two diagrams, let me show you that, has a completely different definition. So don't, so this particular bar graph is used for comparison. I actually am comparing the number of units that has been produced for each of the model. But for
Hmm.
histogram, actually, I am finding the distribution of length. How
Oh,
many cards are between this particular length? How many cards are of this? So how the length has been distributed over this particular data.
okay.
That is
This
the
is
difference between histogram and bar graph. Bar graph is used for comparing the data, but histogram is used for calculating the distribution of the length
right, right.
of a particular variable, basically.
Okay, now I understand. Got it.
Okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Shivam.
Yes, I'm
Okay, fine.
done.
Kavya.
Hi Amit, this is Kavya here. Actually, Amit, this question is related to interview scenario. Actually, I have attended like 3 interviews where I have been asked questions related to my projects. Like they asked me like how many reports have you worked on. I have mentioned like I have 2 years of experience, and they start asking me questions like what kind of projects you have worked on and how many reports you have built. This 2 years. The position I have applied was like Power BI developer role, Amit. So just I wanted to get clarification on how I can explain my project, because I have mentioned like I have worked on an internal project for a year and then for a retail client for another year. So
Mhm.
I don't know the count of reports that I can mention. As I don't have a real time work experience, I'm not sure about the count of reports I can tell them.
Try to keep your reports to minimum and talk about the duration of the project. Suppose you have created 3 reports, but the duration was quite long. So on the basis of duration, you can take up topics on that particular project. In some project, you can talk about the more on data transformation. In some projects, you can talk about to emphasizing to talk about data modeling. In some projects, you can talk about more on working with the dashboard controls. So
Mm-hmm.
by that, you will cover all the aspects of your projects and your contribution for those aspects will be taken into consideration.
Okay, but when they ask me like how many reports have you developed, what will be the appropriate value that I can mention?
Reports, see, reports can depends upon the business scenarios. So you can just
Okay,
randomly tell that I have worked on minimum 15 to 20 reports, and using those reports, I have worked on 2 and 3 dashboards.
okay,
Using those dashboards, you can talk about data transformation, bookmarks, drill through, Power Query, how you have used the Power Query options, how you have used the different types of dimension and fact tables.
okay,
Try to talk about more and more about the concepts of Power Query, how what you have used in those projects. Never tell, always keep the reports less than the dashboards. Okay.
okay,
Try
okay.
to
Okay,
try to talk about
dashboard
more on
is
dashboards
like
than
that
reports.
we pin it in a Power BI service. You are talking about that dashboard, right, Amit?
Yeah, dashboards can be made in the desktop level and publishing it to the Power BI service.
Okay,
Now, don't go to the Power BI service much because that is all admin job. There is no technicality much involved over there.
okay,
Try to keep the, try to divert the interview, try to track the interview in a way where you can talk more about the report creation than
mm,
publishing.
okay,
Because in publishing, every company has their own approach. You don't have much control on the Power BI service workspace in many cases because you cannot use many options to create report there, right? So it's
yes,
60 to
okay,
70% of your time you spend in desktop.
mm.
Try to keep the discussion in the way where you can talk more about how you worked on Power BI desktop level.
Okay. That means dashboard counts
After you
the
have
lessons
recently
reports.
given an interview in the Fractal also, right?
Sorry, Amit.
Fractal Analytics also you given
No,
an
not in Fractal. Bridge I2I
Bridge
analytics.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So two interviews, right? You have given which you are.
I have given 2 interviews when I told you. After that, I have attended an interview in Capgemini. Amit.
Hmm.
Waiting for that result.
Don't worry, you'll get it. Don't worry.
Okay.
I am
Okay,
sure
Amit.
you'll get it. The way you are asking the questions, that means you're in the right direction.
Okay, thanks, Amit.
Talk about the dashboard controls. Keep the report less. Talk about dashboard things more because in dashboard, what happens? You apply the control on multiple reports, right?
Mm-mm.
So that's why keep your discussion to the dashboard, and because at the end of the day, business users are more focused on using the dashboard rather than the reports.
Mm-mm. Okay, sure, Amit.
All the best for all the interviews, upcoming interviews.
Thank you so much, Amit.
I hope to hear
Thanks.
some good news by next week from
Yeah, sure, Amit.
with it.
Yeah, thanks, Amit.
Thanks, Kavya.
Yeah,
Oh,
bye.
bye. Any more questions, guys? Yeah, Anshul, how are you? Even you, after a long time, you're also asking questions.
Yeah, hi Amit. Actually, my health's not good. That's why.
Okay. Yeah, ask me, please.
Uh, yeah, in like this tree map, just we are grouping.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in Power BI, we were not doing that.
No. In Power BI, we're not working with a grouping. Power BI, we have different approach for grouping. Don't worry.
Oh, in tree maps.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, Savita, tell me. Hello.
Yeah, Amit, here in this tree map, okay, you show that Toyota, for example, petrol in one side and gas, diesel in one more side. Instead of that, in Toyota, that whatever square or the dimension, there only can we show the split between gasoline and petrol? I mean, sorry, gasoline and diesel.
No. So once you apply group in a tree map automatically converts it to a different segment. Hello.
Okay.
So once you apply, see, for example, if I
Yeah,
bring
thank you.
fuel
So
type
it's
over
not
here,
possible. Okay.
yeah, so if I bring the fuel type over the color mark, it will automatically create a group. So it doesn't
Mhm.
bifurcate within one segment. It actually creates a different segment for a different group of data.
Okay, understood.
That is how it works. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ankit.
Yeah, hi Amit.
Yeah, hi.
Actually, I just have a doubt. Like, I mean, do we have a word cloud visualization tool in Power BI?
Yes, you can search in the custom visuals if you have. If you get, I'm never expert for word cloud in Power BI. I don't know. I cannot say that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have used the word cloud concept more. So that's why I use tools as per the business scenarios I come across. I explore the tools, I get it, and I implement it.
Oh, okay.
My day starts with Tableau and my day ends with Power BI. So I juggle between both the tools as per the requirement I get from my business owners and all. So that is my day starts and that is how I work. So tomorrow is Monday, right? So my day will start. I know my day will start with Tableau because I have some requirement that I have got in my email.
Okay.
Depends on the requirement. You can explore it, Ankit. You can get an answer for that. Issues.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you.
I guess by now you guys are all expert in exploring tools after having
Yeah,
so much of sessions
definitely.
with me. So just explore and just come up with some new things. Even I want to learn from you guys.
Right.
Share it in the Skype group.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amit.
Yeah. Thanks, Ankit. Yeah, Lahari, tell me, how are you?
Yeah, hi Amit. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. How is your task going on?
Yeah, it's going quite well.
Fine. Yeah. Let me know what your question.
Yeah, Amit, actually my doubt is that currently I'm working as an IDQ developer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting calls for IDQ developer, but I'm little skeptical about if I can start interviewing for Power BI developer or Tableau if once this is completed, like Tableau developer. So how is it gonna be like? Can I go with it or like I don't know if I'm pretty confident that I can. How can I showcase that I have been learning all of these things in my resume?
So you want to showcase your learning or you to showcase your work? What do you want?
Both actually. Like yes, showing that yes, I have been learning these concepts, and also I have done a few of the dashboards and reports on these tools.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to showcase these, but the thing is that the requirements, like what they're asking is they don't want freshers. Like they want few, like at least minimum experience of 2 to 3 years or so. So
Mm-hmm.
in that case, how can I show that I am a fresher in this tool? So how can I showcase all of these things in that case, like for applying and all?
Uh, See, in terms of talking, you can talk about your contribution. Always project yourself as an individual contributor. Fine. When you start speaking about your work. Now, if you want to mention about your work in your project, in your resume, try to sync it with your previous experience, not
Okay.
the whole part.
Uh-huh.
Like what I have done in my previous, I used to sync my knowledge, whatever things I was learning in Tableau and Power BI with my existing work. Now, suppose I have mentioned 8 points about my experience, right?
Yeah.
Out of those 8 points, I included 3 points from my Tableau and Power BI. Now, that is where your expertise, your smartness will come
Okay.
to draft your resume.
Yeah.
And whatever you're drafting, that should be clear in your mind because you need to speak about that, right?
Yes. Yes.
And while speaking, your emphasis will be about your contribution,
Yeah.
not about the project. What did you do in the project?
Okay.
How did your decision affected the organizational revenue model? Or how did your decision help to improve a particular existing process that was going on for so many years?
Okay.
So speaking and showcasing, both the things are different. Showcasing is talking about the work that you have done. Speaking means what was your contribution in that particular work.
Yeah.
Now, I have worked very less in a team, frankly speaking. I most probably I work as an individual contributor. So I can know my contribution better. It's difficult when you're working in a team to showcase your contribution, right?
Yes, that's
So
happened.
try to focus on individual contribution as much as possible.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Amit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Nilanjan.
Yeah, hi Amit.
Yeah, hi Nilanjan. Tell me.
Yeah, just one question. Like, what we do in the Power BI in the transform data, like working with the null values and also with the row headers thing. So why we do that in the Tableau?
Data transformation you are asking?
Yes, yes, the row
I'll
header
talk about that.
adjustment
There's a
and the
different
null
tool
values.
that we use in Tableau. I'll talk about that. Don't worry.
Is that Tableau prep you're talking about?
Yes, yes. I will come up with a discussion on that.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, Saurav.
Hi, Amit. So, Amit, you were talking about the requirement if you get like you get used on a daily basis. So, what kind of requirement it is? Like, the client does it tell you like what kind of report layout they need, or what
No,
kind of
no, 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 no.
different chart, or it's up to you, based on your understanding or expertise, you will come up with the different layouts or something.
See, the thing is the client requirement, the client will never talk about report. Okay, forget about that. He is least bothered about the report tool you're using. The client, for example, the requirement that I get on a daily basis, like in a direct speech. For example, I'm not able to see the profit margin in my last report. So this is a direct speech the client asks. Can I have a clear picture about the sales in terms of the summer offer see, I have got a requirement last Friday about asking that where the client has written simply that I wanted to see the sales in terms of the summer season where we have launched 2 campaigns in terms of marketing.
Okay.
Now I have to first go and search the data for those campaigns. What kind of sales were given under that campaign? It was a discounted sales, or it was a free sales, or it was a hourly sales, or any kind of what you can say lottery was being played,
Mhm.
was given, was done in terms of selecting the customers. So there's a lot of analysis that you have to do. So these
And
requirements are directly come from the client in terms of direct questions.
on an average, suppose this complex requirement which you just spoke about. So
Uh,
what is the timeline do you say? It's like they will expecting you in a day or week or so something.
that depends on your goodwill, right? So they know the way I work.
Oh, okay.
So they know by EOD I get something from Amit.
Okay. Otherwise, let's say, and I know you are the Superman, but let's say it's a common man and like common general point of view. How much time do you think we should estimate this kind of?
So that depends on your how you understand the business,
All
sort of.
right. Okay.
So the more you are used to that particular data, you know, okay, fine, this kind of data will come. Now, marketing team has launched a campaign last month. Now, the moment the marketing team launches a campaign, I get an email, okay, this campaign is going on. So I keep an eye on the data, which kind of data this campaign is getting. Now, the moment I keep an eye on the data, I start building the visuals. Okay, this kind of reports will be asked by the end user.
Oh, so very tentative and proactive in such a
Yes, that's you need to be very creative and very smart. Okay, fine. In my company there are 26 campaign goes, and every month there's a new campaign that is launched in terms of marketing.
Mhm.
So I have to
Okay.
keep an eye, or else what I do, uh, by once in a week I sit, I dedicate at least 3 to 4 hours in understanding the new campaigns that are running,
Okay.
and
So you must, yeah. So you
so I
must be
create different types of. I have a project management tool, so I create a different
oh, okay.
task for each of the campaign that is running.
Oh, that's what I want to ask. Like the moment you said, you keep an eye on the date, those campaign and data. So I was thinking you must be having some, visibility or access of database where you can so go and look up the data or something.
So that's the second part. Yeah, obviously I need to refer the database only, correct. So
Okay.
because I need to see the, okay, fine, these kind of data are getting collected. Okay, these are the, and what are the hidden data that can be asked? What are the hidden questions? So there are a lot of segments that I define a requirement. First, the data. Second, the information that is available readily. The information that I have to extract from the data. The transformation that the data requires. So there is a template that I use every time. Now, the
Okay.
moment I get a data, I use that particular template to analyze that.
Okay.
And that makes my
That's
work more easy actually.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amit. Uh, so one last question, just regarding the certification. So how do you value this Tableau certification? Like most of the requirements in company in the job interview say, okay, the people have done the certification. They filtered out those candidates at least. Okay, if you have done certification. So how much do you think it's value added if you go for the certification?
See, in my interview process, I reject a candidate mostly with certificates only.
Seriously.
Yeah. Because people who studies for certification is just like preparing for 12th or 10th exam.
Okay. Okay.
If
Yeah.
you have 3 years of experience and then you go for certification, I will value that person more than me because he's smarter
Oh,
than me actually.
oh, in
So
that way.
always try to gain a experience at minimum for 2 to 3 years and then go for the certification.
Oh, I got it, your point. Yeah. Thank you.
Fine. Okay, last two questions. Tina and Namita, tell me. Hello.
Hi, Amit.
Yeah, hi Amit.
Yeah,
Okay.
Namita. Tina, just a minute. I'll just go.
Amit, I want to know this product-based company is a good or a service-based company is good for us.
Product.
Like,
If you ask me to be very specific, product. Go for product.
okay,
Don't,
fine.
if you want to start your career in this
Mm-hmm.
domain, simply join a product-based company.
Actually, I am currently working in a service-based company, but I have offer of product-based company, and I
Go
have
for it, go
interview.
for it, go for it. Don't think twice, go for it. Any kind of product. Learning is best when you're working in a product because a product is getting developed, it's getting evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
So
Actually, I have one interview tomorrow, and I'm not sure whether it is service-based company and product-based company. It's a BlackRock company.
BlackRock is a domain hosting company, I guess.
It's a financial company,
Oh,
financial
that's a big rock.
management.
Sorry, that is a big rock. Okay, sorry, sorry.
I'm asking about BlackRock. It's a financial investment management company. So I'm not sure whether it is product based or service based, but That is why I'm asking whether to go for a product or service based.
Product. If you want to start, go for product.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Tina.
Yes, hi Amit. Amit, I was going yesterday's lecture where you said these labels can be worked in two ways. When I want to, if I choose a bar graph and I want the labelings to be done, you said there are two ways you can do labeling. But I could only understand one way, which is that T icon is there and you have to choose and the labeling is done. What is the second way you wanted
You
to?
can see the same T icon in the marks shelf.
Okay. Acha, the one is above and one which is in the mark sheet. Bus, that's the only, you know. No, I was just trying to understand what could be because I saw the both the T levels. Yes, thanks.
Only.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, guys, a lot of discussion happened. So let's meet on next class on or Wednesday. So if you have any doubt, please come up and attend the sessions. Thank you. So I'm signing off for the day. Stay
Thank
safe
you.
and yeah, keep learning. Thank you.